Chapter 12. The Last Piece. Over the next few weeks, Addy and her family kept up their search. They went to different churches, aid societies, and hospitals. They placed several ads in the Christian Recorder newspaper. They went to the police too. The Walkers had not found Esther, Auntie Lula, and Uncle Solomon, but they were determined not to give up. One afternoon, a few days before Christmas, Addy stopped at City Hospital after she finished her deliveries. Her job took longer now that she had to do it by herself. She missed Sarah's help and her company, both at school and while she was making deliveries. Addy had been to City Hospital so many times that she didn't have to sneak into the charity ward. All the nurses knew her now. When Addy stopped at the front desk, the nurse there shook her head and almost smiled. "You are the most determined child I have ever seen," she said. "Where's your brother today?" "He had to work late," said Addy, "but my mama said I knew the way here so well, I could come by myself." Now the nurse really did smile. "Hi, welcome. You certainly do know your way around here. You and your brother have been here so many times that you've got nearly every nurse in the hospital looking for your sister and aunt and uncle. I know it's no use to tell you that they aren't here. Go back to the ward and see for yourself. Mr. Polk will be glad to see you." "Thank you," said Addy, and she started to run down the hall. "Walk," the nurse reminded her. "There are still some rules that can't be bent." "Yes, ma'am," Addy said, slowing down. In the ward, Addy looked at each face in every bed to see if Esther, Auntie Lula, or Uncle Solomon was there. She always stopped at Mr. Polk's bed last, because he liked her to visit with him. "Hello, Addy," Mr. Polk said with a smile. His voice sounded stronger. "Sit down and stay a while." Even though Addy wanted to hurry off to a nearby church to see if there was word about Esther, Lula, and Solomon, she took a seat next to Mr. Polk's bed. "You seem better today," she said to the old man. Mr. Polk nodded. "I am," he said. "The nurses and doctors helped me get better. And you helped me too." "But I didn't do nothing," Addy said. "Yes, you did," said Mr. Polk. "Your visits gave me something to look forward to. Something to hope for." Mr. Polk spoke slowly. "Hope is a powerful thing, Addy. It's the greatest gift you can give to somebody, or give yourself. It can see you through the worst times." Addy thought about her own hope of having her family all together. With each passing day, her hope had grown smaller. It was now like a tiny flame that a puff of wind could blow out. But as she talked to Mr. Polk, she could feel her hope grow bright again. After a while, Addy said, "It's getting late, Mr. Polk. I have to go, but I'll come see you again." The sky was darkening as Addy left the hospital. She stayed with Mr. Polk longer than she'd realized. She knew she should be getting home, but tonight she felt hopeful enough to search some more for Esther, Lula, and Solomon. First, she went to the church that was near the hospital, but the church was dark inside except for a cluster of candles burning near the altar, looking like stars in a night sky. As Addy left the church, its bells started to ring. The hours. They rang 6 times. Addy knew Mrs. Golden was putting a hot supper on the table right now, and Mama and Papa would be worried about her. But since she was already late, Addy decided to stop at the First Baptist Church too, since it was on her way home. Addy leaned into the wind and hurried along. "Hi, welcome." I'm reading from this book tonight. The sidewalk was slippery with ice. so Addy had to slow down as she approached the church. Ahead of her, in the winter twilight, she saw the shadowy shape of a woman climbing down the church steps. She moved slowly, as if every step were a struggle. As Addy drew closer, she saw that the woman was holding the hand of a small child. Light from the inside of the church spilled out onto the steps and lit first the woman's face, and then the child's face too. Addy froze. Her heart was pounding the way it had pounded the night she and Mama escaped to freedom. On that night, she had pressed the memory of her sister into her mind. Her big, dark eyes, her round face. Addy thought maybe it was hope that made her think the face she was seeing was Esther's. Esther? Addy's voice came out in a whisper. Then she shouted and ran up the steps. Esther! She called out, Auntie Lula! I'm reading from this book tonight. The woman stopped and turned. Is that my Addy? She asked. It was Auntie Lula. It's me, Auntie Lula, said Addy, rushing towards the old woman. It's your Addy. Addy threw her arms around Auntie Lula and Esther. They were both so thin that Addy's arms went almost all the way around them. She held on to them tightly, tears running down her face. Addy had dreamed so long and hoped so long and prayed so long and searched so long that she never wanted to let go of Auntie Lula and Esther now that she held them at last. Auntie Lula pulled back. She studied Addy's face. My Addy, she murmured. Then she turned and went towards Esther. Look at here, Esther, she said. This is your sister. Remember me and Uncle Solomon talking about her? Esther nodded, looking at Addy with big, bright eyes. What's your sister's name? Auntie Lula asked Esther. Esther hid her face in Auntie Lula's dress and then looked up at Addy and said shyly, Her name, Addy. Addy smiled at the sound of Esther's voice. Her own voice trembled when she said, Auntie Lula, we've been looking for you so long. I can't believe you're here at last. Where's Uncle Solomon? I'll explain about Solomon in good time, said Auntie Lula, but now it's time to get Esther and me home. As Addy and Auntie Lula and Esther came up the stairs of the boarding house, the front door swung open. Mama, Papa, and Sam stood in the doorway looking worried. But as soon as I saw Auntie Lula and Esther, the concern melted from their faces. Hi, welcome. Reading from this book tonight. They rushed forward and hugged Auntie Lula so tightly that she disappeared into their arms. Everyone was crying, including Esther. Mama reached down to pick her up. She kissed Esther over and over and over. My baby! My baby! Mama cried. Lula, you brought me back my precious baby. You done got so big, Esther. Esther stopped crying, but she reached out her arms for Auntie Lula. Addy looked at her mother's face and thought Mama was going to cry again. Not out of joy, but because her own baby didn't know her. Auntie Lula took Esther into her arms. Look at here, Esther, she said. This here your mama and papa and brother and sister. But Esther turned away and hid her face in Lula's chest. She'll come around in time, Auntie Lula said softly. She's tired. You must be tired too from your journey, Papa said. Come and sit by the fire in the parlor. When they were all seated before the fire, Sam asked gently, Auntie Lula, where's Uncle Solomon? Auntie Lula let out a deep sigh. Solomon made it as far as she could, she said. He died at the last freedmen's camp we stayed in. We buried him there. Addy's eyes filled with tears, and for a long time, no one spoke. Then Auntie Lula went on. Solomon and me had a time of it, you hear? The plantation turned into nothing but a dry patch of dirt. Even before the war was over, everybody knew the North was gonna win. Seemed like word of it was blowing on the wind. Slaves was running off, and every day, so many was leaving they couldn't catch 'em all. Soon, it wasn't but a few of us left, mostly old folks that couldn't run nowhere. When we finally got the news that the war was over, even Master Stevens had left, because he wasn't making no money. There weren't nobody to plant tobacco. Solomon was sick, and he knew it. But he didn't want to die on that plantation, and we was determined to get this child back to y'all. So that's when we struck out for one of them freeman camps. We got to a camp near Virginia, and Esther got sick. So sick, we couldn't move no more. "A lady wrote to us," said Addy. "She told us you've been at her camp." Auntie Lula coughed and took a sip of the hot tea Mama had made for her. "Lots of kind folks helped us along the way," Auntie Lula continued. "As soon as Esther was better, we pushed on. We got to a camp pretty close to Philadelphia when Solomon just couldn't go on anymore. He'd been sick for a long time, and he just wore out." Addy buried her face in her hands, and Auntie Lula reached out and stroked her hair. "It's all right, child," she said. "Uncle Solomon died a free man. He'd hoped for that all his life long. He did what he set out to do. After he passed on, Esther and I came the rest of the way here. I didn't think I could make it another step when he saw us, Addy." "You should rest now," Mama said, "and Esther should too. I'll go up and get the bed ready." Auntie Lula said, "Addy, reach into my bundle and get Esther her doll. She can't sleep without it." When Addy pulled the doll out of Auntie Lula's bundle, she and Esther said, "Johnny!" at the same time. "Who did I tell you gave you this doll?" Auntie Lula asked Esther. "My sister," Esther said. She looked up at Addy, the firelight reflected in her brown eyes. "My sister, Addy."